So we owe a lot to this guy, Alex Osterwalder. So Alex was a young entrepreneur in the academy in Switzerland. Yeah, a lot of good things come from Switzerland. And so Alex Osterwalder decided at some point in his life, when he went for the doctorate of business modeling, that enough with business plans. He even said, burn down business plans. He was as bold and as rebellious as that. The reason he said it is because he said those tools don't work for innovators and entrepreneurs anymore. And back in 2002, he started a study that said, I really have to create a new set of tools that will allow people to understand business models, design them, and validate them better than they do with business plans. And he set off on this journey, surveying and talking to more than 1,000 organizations to find the tool that will be able to encapsulate an entire pattern of any business model worldwide. And while doing this, he published a book that sold over 1 million copies, Business Model Generation. And by doing that, he created a community we call the business design community, spread across 45 countries worldwide, with companies, individuals, managers, entrepreneurs, consultants, and others that practice the tools of Osterwalder and his fellows. So, what are those tools? What did Alex and Yves Pinier, his colleague, bring to us? The business model canvas is a very interesting tool. The business model canvas is a very presumptuous tool. It says, why couldn't we put any business model onto a single page? And were they successful? You bet they were. So, 9 building blocks on this canvas really describe any element that's really distilled down to being critical in any business model. Let's go through these elements as you look at the canvases that you have in your pack that we send over to you, and let's examine them so that we all have a common shared language. So, the business model canvas starts with customer segments. Customer segments is all about customers, right? So, what is a customer? Figure out, if we gave you now 30 seconds to write down your definition of a customer, what will we get? Will we define a customer in the same way? So the way we define customer segments in a business model design is that those are the people or the organization / businesses we design value for. And who do we not design value for? Right, non-customers. So the choice of designing value, as you probably understand by now, is ours. And we make a decision. If we have $100,000 or euros, we make a decision whether we're going to spend creating value for this customer or another customer. So customer segments, great example. Value propositions. What are value propositions? And have no fear. We're going to dig down into value propositions later in the course. But for the moment, value propositions is how do our products and services create value? How do they solve problems? How do they relieve pains or fulfill dreams? Or, nicely put, create gains. So let's take an example for a second. What if we talked about WhatsApp? You probably are using WhatsApp, right? So if you're a customer of WhatsApp, what is the value proposition of WhatsApp to you? I can't hear you. Oh, you said application? Or did you say communication? That's not accurate enough. But if you said belonging to a group of relatives or friends in a very immediate way, that could be much more accurate. And that's different from the product itself, from the app itself, right? In order to deliver this value, what does WhatsApp need? So a channel, really, is the effective mean of delivering this value and communicating this value. So what is the channel in WhatsApp case? Right, the app. So the app or the App Store or the Google Play Store are the channels in which that value is delivered to us. Great. Now let's move on to something really important in business models. And that is customer relationships. Now customer relationships, a lot of people know the canvas, but they think customer relationships are the relationships we have with customers, and they're right. But if we refine this a little better, we'll find that customer relationships are all about how to acquire customers, and I would even further state how to trap them, and how to retain them. Better said, how to lock them in so that they don't leave. So traps and locks are very important because they determine whether we have a valid business model in which customers will stay and grow, or are they going to run out of our business model as soon as they're trapped. By the way, here's a great question for you. What is the lock-in and trapping mechanism in WhatsApp's model? If you said groups, you're right. Because here's the way to check it. If you're belonging to a group in WhatsApp that you no longer want to belong to, but you're still there, yep, they lock you in for good, didn't they? All right, let's move on from WhatsApp. So revenue models. Revenue models is all about how and how much would customers be willing to pay. How? Subscription, performance-based, commission fee. Maybe we're selling products. Maybe we're selling a one-time service. And then there's pricing. Is our pricing relating to the value that we're giving, or is it detached? Good question to think about. So this side of the business model canvas, we call the value side. This is the front stage that customers and channels and the world could see. But then there's the backstage in which we create value. So that backstage is based on key resources, and key resources aren't just a list of resources. It's the fundamental resources, whether they're human, whether they're intellectual, whether they're physical, or whether they're financial, with which we have to have the creation of value. So if you're an espresso, what would you have to have as a resource? If you said the machines, you're right. If you said coffee, you're right, and so forth. And key activities is all about the focused, really specific activities that we perform repetitively and tell the story of who we are. I'll give you an example. If you're a newspaper business model, what would be a key activity? Yep. If you said writing articles or reporters or editing stuff, you're right. And now let's move on to a very important block called key partners. And key partners aren't just any partner or any supplier. Key partner is the one partner or one supplier or one strategic partner we couldn't do without. It could be the coffee growers in the Nespresso case. It could be journalists that are freelance in the newspaper case, and it could be something else. And finally, to close the canvas, what is our cost? What are we going to spend money on from a Pareto standpoint? Meaning, we're looking at 80% of our operational expense and saying, where does that money go? Salaries, cloud services, software writing, or anything else. If you look at that entire pattern, you'd be able to find something. They really nailed it, Osterwalder and Pinier and their friends. They got us all on a single piece of paper to see how we create value, how is it delivered, and how is it captured. And of course, hopefully, this side is bigger than this side. So the business model canvas is all about business models. We're going to use an illustration of a very interesting case that you're going to work on with me to see what business model innovation is all about with the business model canvas. Stay put.